Most people still think of El Paso as a quite affordable border city where not much changes, but that perception is starting to shift in a real way. Between major tech infrastructure projects, rising home values, and new state investments in healthcare and education, this market is evolving faster than many people even realize. And if you're thinking about moving, buying, or investing here, what happens in 2026 could directly impact how much you pay and how much opportunity you will have. Hey, welcome back. I'm Chastity Rosales, your El Paso real estate expert. On this channel, I break down what it's really like to live, buy, and invest in the Sun City. No fluff, just real insight. And today, we're going over 5 major happenings in El Paso in 2026 and what they actually mean for your money, your timing, and your decision to move here. So let's get into it. Number 1, a major tech project is driving long-term economic momentum. Let's start with one of the most important developments shaping El Paso right now. Meta is building a large-scale data center in the area with publicly reported investment estimates in the hundreds of millions to over $1 billion. While that headline number gets a lot of attention, the real story is what it projects this will do over time for El Paso. Data centers don't just create explosive overnight population booms, but they do create stable long-term economic activity. You're looking at construction jobs in the short term, followed by more permanent roles in operations, maintenance, and technical support. More importantly, these projects tend to attract additional infrastructures like contractors and secondary business activity. For housing, this creates something very specific: steady demand rather than sudden spikes. That matters because steady demand is what gradually pushes prices upwards without making the market feel like it's overheated. It means fewer dramatic downturns compared to more volatile tech-driven cities. So if you're planning to relocate, this is a key window. The market is no longer stagnant, y'all, but it also hasn't reached the kind of pricing pressure you see in larger Texas metros. That middle phase is where the best long-term positioning usually happens. 2, utility costs are increasing, but for a reason. Now let's talk about something that will directly affect your monthly expenses. El Paso Electric has implemented a proposed rate increase tied to the infrastructure upgrades, including solar energy, expansion, battery storage, and overall grid reliability improvements. And for many households, this translates into an increase of about $10 to $15 a month. That's the part most people focus on. But the bigger picture, y'all, is that these increases are tied to a broader investment strategy for El Paso designed to support long-term population growth and energy demand as more infrastructure comes online, including large commercial users like data centers. The grid needs to scale with it, and so do we. So what does that mean for you as a buyer or a renter? Well, first, you should absolutely factor in higher utility costs into your budget. That's just part of the reality of a growing city. But second, and more importantly, El Paso still remains significantly more affordable overall than cities like Austin, Dallas, or even parts of San Antonio when you look at total cost of living. So while utilities may rise incrementally, they're not offsetting the city's core advantages, which is relatively accessible housing and lower overall monthly expenses. At this point, you're probably starting to see a trend. El Paso isn't exploding overnight, but it is moving in a clear direction. Economic investment is coming in, infrastructure is expanding, and costs are adjusting gradually rather than all at once. That's the good news. So if you're trying to figure out where you fit into all of this, what neighborhoods make sense, what price points are realistic for you, and how to time your move, I put together this free El Paso relocation guide that walks you through all of it. It's the same resource that I give to my relocation clients, and it breaks down everything from housing areas to lifestyle factors you will not find in listings. You can grab it in the description below. Now let's get into the next change because this one directly affects your equity. Number 3, home values are still climbing, but at a sustainable pace. One of the biggest misconceptions of El Paso are that home prices are flat or barely moving, and that's just not what the data shows. Over the past few years, El Paso has seen consistent moderate appreciation with median home prices sitting at the high 200s, low 300s, and continuing to trend upward. Homes are also selling relatively quickly, often within a month, depending on price, location, and condition, of course. But what makes this market unique is the pace. Unlike cities that saw extreme spikes followed by corrections, El Paso has moved to a more steady beat. That creates a more stable environment for both buyers and homeowners. If you already own a property here, this means your equity is likely continuing to grow gradually rather than dramatically. And that's often a healthier long-term scenario. If you're still on the sidelines as a buyer, here's the key points for you. The window for entry is still open, but it is narrowing. You're not competing in a hyper-inflated market yet, but you are entering a phase where prices are trending upward with consistent demand behind them. So waiting does not necessarily price you out immediately, but it can mean paying more for the same home within the next year. And for first-time homebuyers especially, this is one of the few Texas markets where entry-level homes are still available and realistically obtainable without stretching beyond your budget. Number 4, y'all, state level investments are strengthening our local infrastructure. Some of the most important changes happening in El Paso right now aren't coming from the city. They're actually coming from the state level. Texas has allocated significant funding toward healthcare, education, and regional development projects that directly impact El Paso. This includes investments in medical facilities, behavioral health services, and university programs, not to mention Fort Bliss, tied to workforce development. So why does this matter for real estate? Because strong infrastructure is what supports long-term population growth. People just don't move for jobs, they move for access to healthcare, education, and quality of life. When a city starts receiving consistent funding in these areas, it becomes more attractive. It just does. Not just to individuals, but to families and professionals looking for stability. There's also growing emphasis across Texas on expanding financial literacy education and for workforce readiness programs. That signals a broader shift toward preparing our residents for evolving job markets. So while these changes may not feel immediate, they contribute to something bigger, a more well-rounded, livable city that can sustain long-term growth. 5, the affordability advantage still exists, but it is changing. Now let's tie everything together for El Paso. Still widely considered one of the more affordable metro areas in Texas compared to cities like Austin or Dallas. The barrier to entry is significantly lower, especially for first-time buyers or relocating families. But affordability isn't fixed, it's a phase. What you're seeing right now is a market that is transitioning from undervalued to recognized. And once a market becomes widely recognized, y'all, affordability tends to compress quickly. You've already got steady home price growth, ongoing infrastructure investments, expanding economic activity, gradual increases in cost of living. Individually, none of these factors create urgency, but together they will create momentum, and momentum is what shifts markets. If you're planning to move within the next year, this is the stage where you still have options. Inventory is still accessible, pricing still relatively reasonable, and negotiation is still possible in many cases. But as more people start paying attention to El Paso, and that is already happening, that balance starts to shift. So let's wrap it up. Here's a full picture of El Paso in 2026. It's not a city experiencing sudden explosive change. It's a city undergoing steady strategic growth. A major tech infrastructure project is contributing to long-term economic activity. Utility costs are increasing slightly, but alongside meaningful investment in energy infrastructure. Home values rising at a sustainable pace, creating gradual equity growth for homeowners and a narrowing entry window for buyers. State-level funding is strengthening our healthcare and education systems, making the city more attractive for long-term residents. And through all of it, El Paso still holds one of its biggest advantages, relative affordability compared to other major Texas markets. The key is understanding that this advantage isn't permanent, it's transitional. What does that mean for you? If you're seriously considering making El Paso your next move, whether that's in the next few months or in the next year, this is where having the right strategy makes a difference. Feel free to reach out to me directly using the contact link below. I work with buyers, sellers, and investors and relocating clients across El Paso. And I can help you figure out exactly where you fit based on your budget, timeline, goals, and lifestyle. And if you haven't downloaded the free El Paso Relocation Guide yet, make sure you grab that as well. It covers neighborhoods, pricings, and key things you need to know before making your move. I'm Chastity Rosales. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.